All right, welcome back to episode two of the M&M podcast. I'm Mete. We've got Makai again, and we're back with the Western Conference predictions right before the season starts. And yeah, before we get into it, if you see our new background, if you watch us on YouTube, it looks amazing. Shout out to Zach from Raptors Republic. He does all our graphic stuff um, on the website, on YouTube. Wherever you see graphics, it's probably from Zach. And by the way you can see, like they look great. So big
Pretty
shout out to
clean.
Zach.
Pretty clean.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's head into it, man. Western Conference. This one I think is gonna be a bit different. So yeah, I think we'll have different opinions. I'll start with my first seed, and it just seems very obvious, like the clear choice. I got the Phoenix Suns. Great offseason by them. Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic. They even solidified the bench. They got Bobo, Watanabe, Jordan Goodwin, Drew Eubanks. So the bench is pretty deep now. They've got three superstars. I mean, like the only way I see it going bad for them is injuries.
hmm My number one seed, I have the Denver Nuggets. I think that they're a team that's just built for regular season success and postseason success, but they have a really great team, a really great, system. And obviously, Jokic is a guy who's never really injured like that. So I think, barring injuries, they're going to be the number one seed. They're going to win a bunch of games in the regular season.
Yeah, Nuggets, good shout. The champions, of course. Number
hmm
two, I went champions from 2 years ago. This might be a bit high for others, but I have the Golden State Warriors. Uh,
Oh,
I I just really like how the offense will look, at least in my head, with Chris Paul. I mean, he's one of the best playmakers of all time. Steph Curry, he loves running off screens. I think he'll do a great job with that at the shooting guard position. Won't have the ball as much in his hands, but like I said, he loves going off screens. I think it's a match made in heaven for them.
hmm. My number two seed, I said the Phoenix Suns, and most of the same reason you said, but really because they have KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. I think when you have so many stars like that, that helps you win a lot of regular season games because even if one of them gets injured, you still have two super high level players to help you win a lot of those regular season games. So I got the Phoenix number two.
Yeah, number three, I have your one seed, Denver Nuggets, and they're pretty much running it back from last season. They only lost like Bruce Brown, their
Yeah.
most significant piece, but they didn't really get anyone significant, so that kind of like made me put them lower. And I think the two teams above them, they just got much better. So I think they'll still have a good season. Number three, I think that's good for them.
Mm. My number three seed is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. And I say the Lakers because they had a really, really great offseason. I feel like they were able to keep Austin Reeves. They were able to add Gabe Vincent. They were able to add Torian Prince. And at the end, they were able to get Christian Wood, who I don't think is going to be super great, but he's probably a good depth piece. And they obviously still have LeBron James, Anthony Davis. But I think they just really got better in the offseason. So I think that that's going to help them because LeBron always misses his fair share of games. AD misses his fair share. So I think that because they have guys who can kind of step up in those roles and not just have a bunch of randoms off the bench, I think it's really going to help.
You just laid off my number 14 perfectly because you were saying AD LeBron missed a lot of games. This team's superstars, number four, Clippers, in my opinion, they miss a lot of games too. But I was gonna say the new rest rules, they should help out these teams that really like to rest their superstars. So that's what I'm going with. I think Kawhi and PG play a lot more this season. I think they're like a top three team talent wise. And yeah, I think the new rest rules should help them out. They should have a better regular season than they've been having the last couple of years.
Mm. My number four seed, I'm going to say the OKC Thunder. And I
Wow.
really think that they're gonna bounce up like this because with Chet Holmgren coming to the team, they finally have a guy who can protect the rim. He really was the missing piece that they were missing because even last year their defense wasn't even bad. I think they had like a top 15, top 12-ish defense, and they're gonna be a really complete team now. They're a team that has a lot of depth. They have obviously Shea Gilgeous Alexander creates advantages for everybody. They have a bunch of guys coming up: Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey. They got the other Jalen Williams off the bench. They got a guy like Kenrich Williams on the bench, Isaiah Joe. So they just have a good amount of shooting, a great amount of defense, good rim protection, solid playmaking. I see the vision for the Thunder this year
Yeah, I can see that vision. I have them kind of lower, but they definitely have the potential to have
hmm
a crazy year.
for sure.
Number five, I guess they could kind of be like this team from last season. Number five was the Kings for me. They were like the story of the season last year. I can see the Thunder doing that, even though they weren't like too bad last year. They made the play in.
hmm
So yeah, but back to the Kings. I'm hoping it wasn't like a 1 year wonder for them.
hmm
I'm hoping they can sustain it, but they didn't really do too much in the off season. And yeah, I like the pickup though. They had one good pickup, Sasha Vezenkov. I hope I said that right. He was shooting really good against the Raptors in that preseason game, so I think he can help them out.
My number five seed, I think, is your third or second seed, but it's the Golden State Warriors. And I got them at five because, they have a pretty good baseline of talent. Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green. And I think that with a team has been playing together for so long and they know what to do, they know what it takes to win games, I think that that sort of experience and that championship experience really is going to help them in the regular season. And as long as people stay healthy, and I think Chris Paul was, a solid ad. I think he's going to, help them with the turnovers. And I think he's going to be a great guy who can kind of help Steph not have to be on ball so much. So I just think that it's gonna work out for them, and I got them at the five seed.
Yeah, number six. I kind of feel bad for this team, Grizzlies. They just lost Steven Adams like yesterday for the year
hmm
without even starting a regular season game. But good news for them, Xavier Tillman. I think he's a really good backup, so I think he's gonna fit in well with them. Another team that didn't really do much in the offseason, only got Marcus Smart. Uh,
That's pretty huge, I
which
think.
yeah, that is a good ad though.
And
And
I think they got D Rose too.
D Rose, I hope he plays. I'm sure he will with John Morant like being
I don't think
suspended.
he's gonna be that much. I think he's more of like a veteran locker
Yeah,
room type signing.
yeah. I can see him play like at the start while Morant's hurt, but I think he'll lose his rotation piece later on.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I was saying, John Morant suspended. And he's a really big distraction to the team. Another reason why I feel bad for them. They were looking great before his suspension, and then it didn't really get much better after that. So I'm hoping the distractions can go away. But I think the sixth seed for them is fair right now.
Yeah. At my sixth seed, I got the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I just think that there's going to be a lot of internal development for them. I think that we saw in FIBA how Anthony Edwards is ready to be that bona fide first option, and he's just been a really really great scorer. And I think he's going to take that next step this season. And then they got another guy who's coming up in J Mac, Jaden McDaniels, and I think he's also going to have a great season because he's a wing that's really really great on defense, an all defense kind of guy. And when you look at his creation, he's coming up in that aspect. And then when you have a guy like Carl Anthony Towns, who's not like a super great number one option, but he's still really talented. You can still face the floor for Anthony Edwards. You can still do a lot of things great on that team. And Rudy Gobert, who obviously is taking a step back in a lot of places, but he's still a pretty solid guy to have as your rim protector. So I just see Minnesota being able to bump up into that six seed.
Number seven, I have your third seed or something, the Lakers.
Mm,
I think they'll coast into the playoffs. Like I don't think they'll go too hard in the regular season. I know
mm.
LeBron likes doing that. But in the playoffs, I think they can turn it on again, just like this season. And honestly, I kind of disagree. I think Christian Wood was a steal of a signing for them. I know there's a lot of like locker room issues with him, but like he's really talented. So on the court, I think he's gonna help them out.
I don't know. I think he's decent, but I don't think it's like a world changing type signing for them. It's cool. You know, my seventh seed, I'm gonna say the Sacramento Kings. And I got the Kings dropping down to 7 because I feel like last year the Western Conference was kind of in a weaker spot than it is right now. So they were able to capitalize on that. And I'm not knocking them for taking advantage of that, but the way that their defense is set up, I don't think that that really bodes well for a lot of the games they're going to need to win. And De'Aaron Fox was clutch player of the year, but that's because so many of the games were close. And when some of those close games don't go your way, the win column looks a lot different. So I got them dropping to the 7th seed, which is still fine for them. Like the 7th seed for them is a good place to be. And I feel like they're gonna be a really exciting team, obviously with De'Aaron Fox and Demontis Sabonis. But I got them dropping to 7 because I think the Western Conference got a little stronger this year.
Yeah, the Western Conference definitely got stronger. Like it was very hard ranking these teams.
Mhm.
And another very talented team at number 8 for me is Shaquille O'Neal's champions for this year, the Dallas Mavericks. They drafted a rookie big man, Derek Lively. I think he's gonna help them out. They've been running like Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber the last few seasons at their big, so I think he'll be an upgrade over that. Grant Williams was a good signing. He was great for the Celtics. He's projected to start for them, so we'll see how that goes. And it's more time for Luca and Kyrie Irving to bond. So the chemistry should get better. They should at least make the play in this season. I mean, Luca and Kyrie, they got to be in there.
Yeah, if they miss the playoffs again, then I don't know. That'd be insane.
Yeah, for sure.
My 8th seed, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think the Steven Adams losing them for the season really hurts, and that made me drop them down from where I had them before the news, and also I'm missing John Morant for 25 games, and I know they've been good without John Morant in the past, but that was kind of a different iteration of this team. So I just think with all these injuries and suspensions and all kinds of things, I just think that they're going to struggle to begin the season, and then even when John comes back, Steven Adams is a big part of what they do, his screen setting, his offensive rebounding. So I just think that they're gonna kind of be a worse team than they were before. But I really love the Marcus Smart acquisition. I think he's a great defender. Obviously, he can kind of play make a little bit. He can shoot the three kind of. So I really like that addition. But I got them dropping to the AFC because of just all this stuff happening around them.
Yeah, I mean, when you said they were great without John Morant, they lost Trey Jones. That was a big reason why they were good.
Yeah.
I like great playmaker. Whenever he needed to fill in the starting
Hmm.
five, he did a great job.
He was a great backup.
Yeah. Number 9, you're I think this was your 4 seed, the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Super young and exciting team, obviously. They could be even better if Chet is as good as we think he is. So
Hmm.
the thing for me is I just want to see him play in the regular season for a bit.
Hmm.
But the potential is 100% there.
Hmm.
And I think come next year, they're definitely a problem, like top 4.
Hmm. My 9th seed, I'm gonna say the New Orleans Pelicans, and I got the Pelicans here because there's just a lot of injury stuff surrounding them, so you can just never be too sure. So I think a safe bet is to have them in the play-in. But if they were to be fully healthy, which we can't guarantee with any team, but especially with the Pelicans, but Zion, CJ, Brandon Ingram, yeah, that's a great core to win a lot of regular season games. But you kind of need CJ McCollum to be a little better than he's been in the past because he kind of fell off towards last season. So you really need him to be better. We really need him to be that kind of great scorer that he was in Portland. And they're gonna miss Trey Murphy for a little bit. He has that injury, and they have a pretty solid team. I think they got Valanciunas in the middle. They got Herb Jones. They got a lot of guys who can be pesky on defense, pesky to good defenders. But just to be safe with all the injury stuff that happens, I'm gonna say that they're gonna be the 10th seed.
I got the Pelicans just 1 seed below you at 10. Like you said, I really like their starting five, but I'm not a big fan of their bench. I think that's an area they could improve. And if Zion can stay fully healthy, I think they're better than a 10 seed team. But that's a big if. Like he hasn't been able to play too much.
All right, so 10, I would say the Clippers, and I got the Clippers there because once again, just like the Pelicans, there's just a lot of injury stuff there, and I don't think that they have a bench that's too crazy, but they got Norm Powell off the bench, they got Covington still there, I believe, they got Terrence Mann. I think he's gonna start. They really obsessed with Terrence Mann. That's one thing I want to talk about. Terrence Mann not being able to be traded for James Harden is just ludicrous to me. But without the James Harden trade, I would say they're going to be around in the play-in, whether it be 10, 9. I can see them around there. But there's just too many health questions. There's just too many questions around the team. And then you have Russell Westbrook starting. Russell Westbrook is a fine player, but I just don't think that their guard room is that strong. And they really, lean a lot on the forwards to create the offense, which is fine, but the forwards have to be on the floor. So, just like the Pelicans, with all the injury stuff, I'm going to say that they're going to be at that seed.
Yeah, that's a surprising one. I like Bones Highland as their backup. They should probably
Mm.
play him more. Terrence Mann, the thing with him, like whenever they have injuries, they'll throw him in and then they'll keep him in the rotation for a bit, I feel like. But then after a few games, he's just completely dropped out of rotation. So yeah,
They
hopefully he
really
can
like Terrence
find
Mann.
yeah, hopefully he can find consistent playing time. I see their vision. I like the potential there, but I don't know, for James Harden, that might be a bit too much, like you said.
Yeah, for real.
Uh Number 11, Utah Jazz. These next like three teams, 10, 11, 12, were so tough for me because
Hmm.
these guys are all fighting for the last playing spot, and I think they can all get it. But the Jazz, a bit like the Kings, they were like a surprise last year. People weren't expecting too much after they traded Donovan Mitchell, but they had a solid year, and I think this will be another year where they're close to the play-in, and I think they're like a few years, like 4 or 5 years away from contending. So
Mm. My next seed, I'm gonna say the Dallas Mavericks. And with these like is the doing the Western Conference predictions is really hard because a lot of these like bottom seed kind of guys, they're so close in talent, like to where you can see if one team has like a hot stretch, you can see them replacing another team. But that's making excuses. That's hedging. So I'm gonna just say that Dallas is gonna be at the next seed, and I say Dallas is gonna be there because like they did make some good offseason acquisitions. They got Grant Williams. They drafted Derek Lively, but I just think that their defense, and especially their paint defense, I don't think it's going to be that strong. And when you have, it's really tough to win a lot of games in the NBA with a so-so defense. And I can't see them being a super high seed, but Luka and Kyrie, I think they can mesh well together this year. But it's really the defense that's holding me back from having them higher.
12th seed, I have the Timberwolves, a team you're kind of high on. I'm kind of low
Mm,
on them.
mm, sheesh.
Didn't really like their offseason. They didn't really do much. They didn't get worse from last year though. So, but I don't think they improved like the teams above them. So I think it could be this could be the last year the Timberwolves kind of like try with Cat Gobert. I think if it goes south for them
Yeah, I
heading
can see
into the
them moving on
finals,
from that.
they
Definitely.
can they can like blow it up. I think they're a blow it up candidate for me.
Hmm.
And yeah, they were all right, but there's like you said, there's way too many good teams in the West, and
It's
I have
hard.
them at 12. Yeah.
Mm. At my 12th seed, I'm gonna say this is really tough. At my 12th seed, I'm gonna say Utah. And Utah, they're not some like amazing team, but they just have a lot of solid guys. Obviously, Laurie Markkinen broke out last year. Chicago Bulls legend Laurie Markkinen, and then they added John Collins, who's a solid dude at the four, and they added they didn't really add anybody else. They Colin Sexton, hopefully he can have a bounce back year. Last year he wasn't that great, so hopefully he can be better this year. And just guys like Jordan Clarkson, just solid guys all around the roster. But I just don't think their roster is like super amazing to where I have them, in the playoffs. So I think just like last year, they're probably going to be one of those bottom seeds most likely.
Number 13, I've got the Portland Trailblazers. Finally moving on from Lillard. I mean, it was time for them to move on, and I think the return was pretty good for him. They got some picks. They got guys like DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon,
Really good trade.
Drew. No, they moved on from Drew Holiday, so they got a couple other guys, but I think like the overall value they got for him was pretty good. And like I said, there is talent there. They even have like Robert Williams. He might be their backup big. He's a starting
I
caliber
heard that they
big.
trying to run Aiden and Robert Williams in the same lineup.
Wow, that would be crazy. Kind of like the Jazz, they were going big last year.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
Clevelandish.
yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I think there's talent here. They're just a bunch of players who are playing together for the first time. So I think it'll take them some time to figure each other out.
Hmm. My 13th seed, I'm gonna say the San Antonio Spurs, and obviously everybody's been seeing everything that Wembanyama has been doing. Wembanyama is like a scarily good player. Every time I watch him, it's like it just doesn't look real to me. But outside of Wemby, they do have some talent. I really like Devin Vassell. I think he's gonna win Most Improved Player this year. I really like his creation, especially from the mid range. I think he's really tough. And Keldon Johnson, I think Vassell is better than Johnson or is going to be better. But I think Keldon Johnson is also a pretty good creator offensively. They have Sohan, who I really like defensively. He can play make a little bit. He's going to be starting at point guard this year. But they're just a really young team, and I don't expect this young team to just immediately burst onto the scene, Wemby or not. I don't think they're going to burst onto the scene and make the playoffs. So I got them as my 13th seed.
Number 14, Houston Rockets for me, another young team, and I don't think the addition of Van Vliet is enough to save them from like a bottom seed.
Mm,
Uh, Kevin Porter Jr., the news was super unfortunate, and it really sucks for the Rockets too. I mean, they got like almost no value for him at all. A couple second rounders. They got like Jeremiah Robinson Earl and someone else. So
hmm
I mean, if those news don't break out, obviously his trade value is not that low, so that was tough for them. And yeah, we'll see. They're young, um, but I can't see them going much higher than 13. I think like 13, 14 is where they'll be at.
mm. Yeah, I got Houston at 14. They're obviously a really young team. I like that they added Fred Van Vliet and I like that they added Dylan Brooks, but I don't think those two are enough to lift that young roster into a playoff spot, at least this year. But for them to get to the playoffs, I feel like you're going to need Jabari Smith to develop, which he has been if you've been watching preseason and Summer League. And you're going to need Jalen Green to develop into the guy you drafted at number two. You need him to develop into the bona fide, top of the league scorer that, you want him to be. And Sengun, I really like Sengun, but I don't think that him being your starting big is gonna, work out too well. I think they got Drew Eubanks, if I'm not mistaken, and I think,
Eubanks is on the Suns actually.
dang,
Yeah.
who did they get? Who did Houston get?
Uh,
I know they got a big,
Let me see.
mm. but if they didn't get a big, then Sengun as your starting big is probably not, too great, honestly. So I just think they're really young. I think they're up and coming, and I don't think that that's Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. I don't think that's enough for them to move on like that.
Yeah, and lastly, Spurs. I think they're gonna be like they're gonna be up there for another first round pick this year, in my opinion, potentially back to back. And I saw something wild today on ESPN. I was
Oh, it's
checking
Jock
like,
Lando. Sorry, Houston got Jock Lando, not Drew Eubanks. My bad,
oh, okay.
Lando.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I saw something wild today on ESPN. I was checking each team's depth chart in the Western Conference, and they have Jeremy Sochan listed as their starting point guard. I
Hmm.
don't know what you think about that.
I mean, obviously he's not like a super great point guard, but I guess Popovich sees enough to try him out there.
You don't think they'll go for Trey Jones? He was not too bad last year. I feel like he should be starting.
I think they're just prioritizing the younger guys.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, so we'll see what they go for with the starting unit. I don't really like the bench. That's an
Mhm.
area they need to improve, but with the first pick, if they can land it again, this team will look much better.
My last seed is going to be Portland. I think after all the trades that they made, I think the identity is going to be a little messed up. They got a lot of talent, I feel like, but I think it's going to take a long time. I think not a long time. I think it's going to take a while for it to mesh. So I'm not really expecting too much this year. So I got them as my last seed. But really, I can see them finishing, 13, 14, 15. Like it's all a blur.
Yeah, all a blur for sure. I mean, this is much tougher than the Western Conference. So yeah, thank you, Makai, for coming on. Thank you, Raptors Republic, for letting us do this.
Man.
And thank you to everyone who watched, who listened. We'll be back next week when the regular season finally starts.
Hmm.
We'll just be going around the league, what's caught our eyes, things like that. And yeah, check us out next week. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace, y'all.